Noting that the anticipated monetary policy easing by the Reserve Bank of India has been delayed, the economic survey for this year has made a case for changing the inflation targeting framework of the central bank by excluding food prices. Probationary IAS officer Pooja Khedkar, who is facing a UPSC probe for allegedly faking her identity to float appearance norms for the civil service examination amid allegations of misusing caste and disability quotas, and her family are at the center of a web of 8 companies linked to their relatives and other known to them, an investigation has found. Records show that 5 of these companies are run from commercial address in Pune. The Supreme Court on Monday ordered an interim stay on the directives issued by police in BJP-ruled UP and Uttarakhand, asking owners of eateries along the route of the Kawad Yatra to display the names of their owners. Hearing a clutch of petitions challenging the move, the Supreme Court in its ex-parte interim order has said that eateries, however, may be required to display the kind of food they are serving. Last week, police in UP and Uttarakhand has issued directives to eateries, including roadside carts falling on the Kawad Yatra route, to display the names of their owners and staff. The opposition as well as some BJP allies had criticized the move, saying it would impact communal harmony. Issuing notices to the states of UP and Uttarakhand and other states along the Kawad Yatra route, a bench of Justice Rishikesh Roy and SVN Bhatti said, until the returnable date, we deem it appropriate to pass interim order prohibiting the enforcement of this. The Supreme Court on Monday said the initial statements of some of the accused arrested in the NEET-UG case indicated that a leak may have occurred on the night of May 4 on the eve of the exam, but no evidence had been placed before it so far to establish that the breach was widespread so as to warrant cancellation of the exam. The Supreme Court also directed the director of the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, to set up a committee of 3 experts to formulate an opinion on the correct option to a multiple choice question. Delhi University is set to consider a proposal to allow donors to have buildings in the institution named after them. According to sources, people can name an under construction building for 10, 20 or 30 years by donating rupees 1 to these and these. This proposal by the University of Delhi Foundation, a non-profit established 2 years ago by DU under Section 8 of the Indian Companies Act 2013, will be placed for approval at the Executive Council meeting Saturday. Speaking, this initiative will be proposed at the upcoming meeting. We have recently named a slab at the new Faculty of Management Studies building, which is under construction right now, after an alumni. She passed away recently and her family donated the funds to name a floor after her. In another initiative, free laptops will be provided to all orphan girls students and girls students who have a single parent across the varsity. Free tablets will be provided for visually challenged students across all colleges and departments. It will be launched next month by the University of Delhi. Kumar said the non-profit has received a contribution of rupees 2.5 crore from Reliance Power for the initiative. He added that procurement of laptops and tablets is underway. We are a Section 8 company and collect funds from alumni too. All funds we collect go to the varsity's endowment funds, he added. The foundation has been created with the primary objective of building and supporting the Delhi University Endowment Fund of the University of Delhi by mobilizing donations, funds, subscriptions and contribution from individuals, well-wishers, alumni, philanthropists, associations, institutions, business fraternity, industries and corporates. Read the varsity's website. Clinching WhatsApp chats retrieved from the mobile of BRS legislator K. Kavita's close associate and details of the alleged money trail and kickbacks have been flagged in the supplementary charge sheet filed against her by the CBI in the corruption case linked to the alleged excise policy scam. A Delhi court on Monday took cognizance of the charge sheet akin of the prosecution complaint. The WhatsApp chats retrieved from the mobile phones of the accused, a close associate and a chartered accountant of K. Kavita, are very clinching, the Central Probe Agency underlined. One such alleged WhatsApp message retrieved from phones was cited by the agency, which read, "We have appointed a consultant who will give us the policy tweaking, ins and outs of the policy and presentable business opportunity. We are required to make 2-3 daily visits, detailed discussions and fizzing the policy, then we know the final business opportunity," the message further said. A day before the first union budget during the NDA government's third term, Prime Minister Modi said Monday that the budget will set the direction of the next 5 years and will lay a stone foundation for the dream of Viksit Bharat by 2047. At the beginning of the budget session, Modi said, "We are moving ahead with the goal of gradually implementing the guarantees that I have been giving to the people of the country. This budget is an important budget of Amrit Kal. We have got an opportunity of 5 years and the budget will also determine the direction of our work for those 5 years. This budget will lay a strong foundation for fulfilling our dream of a developed India by 2047, when we will be celebrating 100 years of independence. It is a matter of pride that India is the fastest growing country among the big economies," he said. "We are growing with a continuous growth rate of 8% in the last 3 years. Today, the positive outlook, investment and performance in India are at the peak of opportunity. This is itself is an important milestone in India's development journey," Modi said. A discussion in Lok Sabha on India's preparedness for Paris Olympics took a political turn on Monday after Congress MP Dipender Hooda brought up the issue of alleged sexual harassment by former BJP MP Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh. While Hooda did not name Singh, he said a situation should not arise when players have to fight their own government and the system. He also mentioned that no one from the government responded when some medal winners had said that they would throw their medals in the Ganga. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju, who had earlier held charge of the Sports Ministry, intervened to say that members should avoid raising federation fights in the House. The minister said there is boundary to be politics in sport federation and such issues should not be raised in Parliament. Rijiju said no other government has done what PM Modi has done for sports. The short discussion on India's preparedness for the upcoming Olympic Games was included through a supplementary agenda. When Speaker Om Birla asked the House to take up the discussion, RSPs N. Premchandran questioned the timing and asked what suggestions could the House offer when the national Indian team had already left for the Olympics beginning July 26. He alleged that the government is taking the House for granted, noting that supplementary agenda is issued to bring important legislative items. The discussion was started by BJP's Sanjay Jaiswal, who said the opposition finds the discussion on sports irrelevant. He said the government has invested over 400 crore for 16 disciplines and is making all-out efforts to ensure athletes get the best training and facilities. Based on the demand of players, the government is also hiring the best available coaches from across the world since 2014, he said. Taking part in the discussion, Azad Samaj Party MP Chandrasekhar Azad said, "I would like to ask the government what steps have been taken to increase participation from rural areas and of the SC/ST aspirants. How much amount has been allocated for this? Also, how many athletes will be from different categories?" Rajya Sabha Chairperson Jagdeep Dhankad on Monday rejected notices from 7 opposition members for discussion on the UP's police order asking eateries on the Kavad Yatra route to display names of their owners and employees. A notice for discussion on issuing a fake disability certificate for UPSC was also rejected. The opposition MP has given notices under Rule 267 seeking suspension of the business of the day to take up discussions on the issue. Dhankad said the notices were neither in conformity to requirements of Rule 267 nor to directions given by the chair, and so the same are not accepted. Dhankad also said that the notices should have been sent online, prompting the opposition MPs to demand offline submission of notices be allowed as well. A fortnight ago, the TMC MLAs, these were administered oath by Speaker B. Biman Banerjee in the assembly. It seemed that weeks to impasse over the oath-taking ceremony had come to an end, with the Raj Bhavan relenting to the demand of the two newly elected legislators. However, in a fresh turn of the events, Governor C.V. Ananda Bose has written to the MLAs telling them that their oath was an instance of constitutional impropriety, and therefore if they would take part in assembly proceedings or vote in the house, they would have to pay a fine of rupees 500 per day. The MLAs received the letter on Monday as the assembly convened for the 10-day session. In the letter, the government contended, citing Article 193 of the Constitution, that he had assigned Deputy Speaker Ashish Banerjee to administer the oath to the new MLAs, but instead Speaker Biman Banerjee presided over the swearing-in ceremony. When the constitutional head of the state designated someone to administer the oath of the MLAs, the Speaker had no jurisdiction in the matter, the letter said. Soon after the two MLAs took oath on July 5, the governor had written a letter to President Draupadi Murmu calling the swearing-in ceremony a violation of the constitution. Nationalist Congress Party Chief Sharad Pawar on Monday met Chief Minister Eknath Shinde at the Shahdri Guest House to discuss issues related to milk prices and irrigation in Baramati, sources said. The meeting comes a day after Union Home Minister Amit Shah launched an attack on the Sharad Pawar. Baramati in Pune district, of which Ajit Pawar, Deputy Chief Minister, and Sharad Pawar's estranged nephew is the guardian minister. Both Pawars had shared an uneasy moment in the District Planning and Development Committee meeting last week. Even amidst a relentless news cycle, the war in Gaza ought not to fade from consciousness. The population of Gaza is still facing a politically sanctioned brutality and a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented proportions. Houthi rebels have used missiles and drones against Israel and attacked international shipping routes. Iran and Israel have used missiles at each other, though the fact that this exchange was not more catastrophic is now being bandied about an example of restraint. The risk of the war spreading more intensely to Lebanon and Syria still exists. With the possible transition to a new administration in the United States, the chances of one or another party interested in the war engaging in price discovery to see what they can get away with will only increase. This war has convulsed the politics of democratic countries in the West. The protests on college campuses have dissipated their effects, diverted to a debate over the extent of anti-Semitism on campuses. The debate may have merit, but it has also become a pretext to not deal with the moral horror of this war. It is in the context that the International Court of Justice has issued a very significant advisory opinion on Israel's occupation. There is near unanimity that Israel is in breach of its obligations under international law in every respect, whether it is the respecting the Palestinians' right of self-determination, human rights, or humanitarian concerns. Even the dissenting opinions of Justice Julia said not quite dispute the illegality of Israel's occupation. The more elaborate joint explanation by Sarah these concedes that Israel has a right of self-defense, but such a right cannot be used for the purposes of annexation and suppression of the right of self-determination of Palestinians. While concurring the majority opinion in the substance of its findings, Cleveland's single-authored explanation registers two cautionary notes. First, that the opinion does not address threats to Israel's security, and that it has no implications specific to the current war in Gaza, opposed to Israeli occupation in general. But it is rightly argues that this conflict will not be solved unless the right of self-determination of both Israel and Palestine is satisfied, a solution that has eluded the international system since 1948. The order has several technicalities, but the bottom line is that Israel's practices in the West Bank and East Jerusalem clearly violate the prohibition of the use of force and the forcible acquisition of territory. The court finds the Israeli regime's practices systematically discriminatory. The court observes that Israel's legislation and measures imposed on severe to maintain a near complete separation in the West Bank and East Jerusalem between the settler and Palestinian communities. In the popular children's fairy tale, Snow White and Evil Queen often asks her magical mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror tells the queen that she is, until one day when she is not. The Snow White is. It is in its painful recreation in the modern world. The metaphorical mirror is often asked who is the greenest, and the answer is has to be you, my developed world, until some day when it says, "Ah, sorry, that's not green." From the looks of it, the climate debate has wound up more than the climate itself, and developing countries like India are at its forefront. Global plans and strategies are in the place. Some pledges have been made by developed countries, while developing countries have been implored to reduce carbon emissions to limit the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels through nationally determined contribution commitments. Yet the climate idealists who advocate for ambitious and immediate action to combat climate change seem to have met their match with climate realists who prioritize practical and achievable solutions. In the middle of these, developing countries like India stand on precarious ground. Sustainable in ethos, we find ourselves surprised at the crossroads of having to address economically what we have always believed and practiced philosophically. As the fifth largest economy in the world, expected to become the third largest before 2030, our energy needs are expected to grow about 1.5 times faster than the global average in the next 30 years. Therefore, our development requirements stand head to head with our climate commitments, and we have to continually resist being swayed by the characterization of being one of the largest polluters. It's a delicate balance that we must strike. The accepted pathways for achieving the target, popularly called climate adaptation and climate mitigation, are a bouquet of strategies primarily centered on shifting energy sources, regenerative and environmental practices, and protecting natural ecosystem. Climate adaptation involves adjusting to the effects of climate change, while climate mitigation focuses on reducing the causes of climate change. However, the interesting point about the climate debate has been that before pledging billions of dollars, no one seems to have asked a fundamental question: is the adopted strategy optimal and in everyone's interest? In the Contest Chapter 13 of the Economic Survey, a special essay on climate and mission life examines their threadbare the issues hidden in the chosen Goldilocks means. The chapter contrieves to understand the flaws hidden in the accepted pathways, the lack of logical thought processes in the opposing strategies adopted by the developed world, and the inadequacy of consensus on the ideas around climate change. India has time and again stood firm on the principle of historical emissions. The developed world has used global resources in the most destructive ways possible to usher in a capitalist dream and get the world to the point it's at now. But it refuses to accept any responsibility for this. The so-called climate pledges are fraught with issues insufficient in quantum in the form of loans that grants riddled with conditions and aimed at profit maximization rather than green intensification. Plus, of course, there is a hidden no behind all the eyes, and recently evidenced by the discussions in the run-up to COP29, the US and other Western countries have reportedly pushed to make the new collective quantified goal contributions voluntary for those who chose to pay. A militant was killed and 2 persons, a soldier and a civilian, sustained minor injuries in gunfights between the army and militants in Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district on Monday, officials said. According to officials, a group of militants fired on the house of a recently decorated village defense guard, Purushottam Kumar, in Rajouri's Gunda Khawas village early Monday. Confirming the attack on X, the army's Nagrota-based White Night Corps said terrorists attacked the house on a VDG at Gunda, Rajouri. A nearby army column retaliated and a firefight ensued. Operations are continuing. The army acted on intelligence anticipating threats to a VDG in a remote area of Rajouri Riasi, the corps said, adding tactical teams swiftly intervened, ensuring no harm to the VDG member and his family. Later, a cordon and a search operation were launched to trace the militants, triggering gunfight, officials said, adding that the security personnel retaliated after the militants threw a grenade, following which they attacked a newly established army picket in the area around 4 am, resulting in the fire exchange. A major militant attack on the army picket in a remote village of Rajouri was thwarted Firing is underway and operation is in progress, an army spokesperson said. The attack has triggered fear in the area due to the threat of the presence of militants in the region. We are terrorized following the attack. This happened in the area after several years. It was peaceful. Firing started around 3 a.m. and kept continuing, a local woman said, requesting anonymity. It is time to rearm VDGs with modern weapon and communications technology to take on the militants operating in the hills of Jammu, another villager said. Reinforcements have been rushed to the area and searches are underway in the forest. The militants are yet to be traced, officials said. Jammu had been witnessing a surge in militant activities with the security establishment often the target. In the past 3 months, militants have carried out over a dozen attacks on security forces, police and civilians, killing at least 10 security personnel, including 2 officers and 7 pilgrims, said official. The centre had decided that the mention of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh as an organization that government official cannot be part of should be removed. This bar on official participating in activities of the RSS first came into effect almost 6 decades ago. Following a directive issued by the Department of Personnel and Training earlier this month, employees can now participate in the activities of RSS without attracting disciplinary action under the rules of conduct applicable to them. On July 9, the DOPT, which manages the central government's human resources, said the government has reviewed instructions issued on 1996, 70 and 80 and it has been decided to remove the mention of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh from the impunged OM. On November 30, 1966, the Ministry of Home Affairs issued a circular. Certain doubts have been raised about government's policy with respect of the membership of or any participation in the activity of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Hockey goalkeeper PR Srijesh announced that he will retire after the Paris Olympics, ending career that spanned 18 years during which he was a pivotal figure in some historic moments. A veteran of 328 international caps, including 3 Olympic Games and multiple Commonwealth Games, Asian Games and World Cups. He will be playing in his 4th Olympics. As I prepare for my last dance in Paris, I look back with immense pride and forward with hope, Srijesh said in a Hockey India release. This journey has been nothing short of extraordinary and I am forever grateful for the love and support from my family, teammates, coaches, fans and Hockey India. 4 days after squads were picked for the short limited overs tour of Sri Lanka, head coach Gautam Gambhir and chief of selectors Ajit Agarkar addressed the debates and talking points that had emerged from the team selection meeting. They chose Surya Kumar Yadav over Hardik Pandya, Rohit Sharma's deputy in the T20 World Cup because the all-rounder was prone to picking up injuries, and on the basis of feedback from the dressing room on Surya Kumar, revealed Agarkar, who stressed that Hardik remains an important player. Among other highlights of the interaction, Gambhir emphasized he shares a good relationship with Virat and that Virat and Rohit have a lot left. He touched upon the workload management of bowlers, especially of Bumrah, and that his prime responsibility is to make a happy and secure dressing room. The biggest talking point was Surya Kumar's elevation as captain, rather than the natural progression of Hardik as assuming charges after Rohit's retirement from the shortest version. But Agarkar clarified that fitness was the biggest criterion. The biggest thing is that captain should be on the park more often than not. That's a prerequisite really. We also feel that Surya has the necessary qualities to be a good captain. He had a good cricket brain and is one of the best T20 batters in the world. He has been around the group for a year as well, he elaborated. It was not a decision making in haste, Agarkar stressed. It is not an overnight thing. Where you just decide that someone should be captain or should not be captain. Obviously, a lot of thought goes in. You got a lot of feedback from the dressing room as well. What sort of qualities you are looking for, he added. The Mumbai Indian batsman, though, was workload for the ODIs, where Agarkar said both Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul had a stellar run in the ODI World Cup. Besides, Pant has returned to contention, and squeezing Suryakumar, whose 50-over career has not taken off as brilliantly as his T20 one, would be difficult. After the Suryakumar Hardik debate was dusted, the topic drifted to Kohli, especially the relationship between Gambhir and Kohli, who had on-field run-ins and recently as the last IPL, but Gambhir blunted the scandalous undertones in the typical nonsensical way. It was good for the TRP. My relationship with Kohli is not for public consumption. It's between two mature individuals, he said in an assertive tone. He would add, I share a very good relationship off the field and will continue to do that. On the field, everyone has got the right to fight for their own jersey and come back to a winning dressing room. But at the moment, we are representing India, representing 140 crore Indians, and I am sure we were going to be on the same page and try to make India proud. Extolling his virtues through a thorough professional, a world-class athlete and a world-class player, he said he and Rohit could continue playing for a long time. Both have a lot of cricket left in them. More importantly, with the Champions Trophy and a big tour of Australia coming up, they will be motivated. Then hopefully we can keep their fitness to make the 27 World Cup as well. He said that the aging stalwarts have retired from T20s would ease their burden. But Gambhir underlined the importance of managing workload, especially of bowlers, especially with test-heavy calendar towards the back end of the year. For a batsman, if they can play consistently and if they are in good form, might as well play all the games, he said, and pointed out to Rohit and Kohli, who he said would be available for most games as they only have two formats to look after.